My boyfriend, Ryan, called me ugly in front of his friends and dumped me at a restaurant, leaving me to pay for the dinner. As he walked away, he loudly said, "A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you." I smiled and calmly waited. This morning, my phone blew up with 13 missed calls. You guys, I'm still processing what happened last weekend. I keep replaying it in my head and wondering if I somehow imagined the whole thing. But nope, my maxed out credit card and the ice cream stains on my couch confirm it was very real. For context, I had been with Ryan for 2 years. 2 years, not some casual fling or whatever. We had the whole routine down. Netflix marathons on Sundays, awkward holiday dinners with both families, even that weird couples yoga class he insisted on trying, which we both sucked at, TBH. Things weren't perfect between us, are they ever? But I thought we were solid. We had talked about maybe moving in together this summer. He had these little annoying habits, leaving his socks literally everywhere, texting during movies, and making these helpful comments about my appearance. Stuff like, "That shirt makes your arms look bigger," or "Have you thought about trying a different hairstyle?" I always brushed it off as him being honest. Oh, past me was such an idiot. So last Friday, Ryan texted me about this dinner with some work friends. He's never really included me in his work life before, always saying it wasn't professional or whatever, so I was actually excited. I even went shopping for a new outfit, ripped my budget, and spent forever getting ready. I'm talking full YouTube makeup tutorial. The fancy straightener I only use for special occasions, the works. I get to this super expensive restaurant downtown, the kind with tiny portions and no prices on the menu. Red flag number 1. Ryan's already there with 2 guys he works with, Leonard and Pablo. The moment I walk up, there's this weird vibe. Ryan barely acknowledges me, just a half stand from his chair and a quick, "You're late." I was literally 2 minutes late because parking was impossible. I sit down and he looks at my outfit and goes, "Oh, you wore that?" Not quietly either. His friends exchange this look and I immediately feel my face getting hot. For the record, I was wearing a dark blue dress that I thought looked nice. Nothing crazy or inappropriate. I try to laugh it off like, is there a dress code I missed? But he just shrugs and says they already ordered appetizers. Cool. The next hour is basically Ryan talking about work stuff I don't understand while his friends nod along. Whenever I try to join the conversation, Ryan either talks over me or explains why I'm wrong about whatever I just said. At one point, I mentioned something about a customer at my store, and Ryan interrupts with, "She doesn't really get how things work in the real business world," with this dismissive wave like retail isn't a real job. I've been a manager for 3 years. I'm sitting there getting more uncomfortable, wondering if Ryan's always been this condescending, and I just never noticed, or if he's showing off for his friends. Either way, not a great look. Then Leonard asks how we met, and I start telling the story about how his coworker Vanessa is my best friend and introduced us. Ryan cuts me off mid-sentence and says, "Yeah, Vanessa felt bad for her. I was doing her a favor really," then laughs. You guys, my stomach literally dropped. That's not even close to how it happened. Vanessa had actually warned me about Ryan's ego before setting us up, but said he was a good guy underneath it all. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. I excuse myself to the bathroom, mostly so I don't cry in front of them. I'm in the stall texting Vanessa like, "WTF is happening?" when I get a notification that Ryan just tagged himself at this restaurant on Instagram with "Boys Night Out," like I'm not even there. Vanessa calls me immediately, but I send her to voicemail because I don't want the guys to hear me crying. I splash some water on my face, fix my makeup, and give myself this sad little pep talk in the mirror about getting through dinner with dignity. When I get back to the table, they're all laughing about something but stop abruptly when I sit down. Awesome. The waiter brings our main courses and Ryan keeps making these jokes about my food choice. I ordered pasta, one of the less expensive options because I was already worried about the bill, and he keeps saying stuff like carb loading for a marathon, and that's a bold choice for someone with your body type. Each comment feels like a little paper cut, and they're adding up fast. At this point, I'm barely eating, just pushing food around my plate and counting the minutes until I can leave. Then Pablo asks Ryan about some presentation, and Ryan launches into this whole story about how his boss loved his ideas and he's basically running the whole project now. Something clicks in my brain. The week before, Ryan had been stressing about this same presentation, saying his portion was only 5 minutes and he was nervous. Now suddenly he's the star. It's like he's living in some alternate universe where he's the main character. Then the bill comes. The waiter sets it on the table and Ryan picks it up, looks at it for a second, then slides it over to me. I think he's just showing me the total, but then he says, and I will never forget this, you know what? I don't think this is working. I stare at him waiting for the punchline. There isn't one. I've been trying to make this work, but I'm just not attracted to you anymore. I think we should break up. In the middle of a restaurant in front of his friends after 2 years together, who does that? I'm completely blindsided. Are you serious right now? This is how you want to do this. He stands up, grabs his jacket, and says, and I still get a knot in my stomach thinking about it, a girl like you should be grateful I even dated you this long. You're not exactly a prize. Then he and his friends just left. They all walked out together laughing, leaving me sitting there with a $347 bill for all their stupid Wagyu appetizers and fancy cocktails. The waiter came over with this look of pity that made everything 1,000 times worse. I paid the bill with my credit card, which I'm still paying off from Christmas. Yay! And somehow made it to my car without completely falling apart. I called Vanessa from the parking lot, sobbing so hard she couldn't understand me at first. She came straight to my apartment with a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bottle of wine, the real MVP. Between ugly crying and stress-eating cookie dough, I told her everything. She was livid, like I had to talk her out of driving to Ryan's place and causing a scene. That's when she got weird. She kept asking questions about what Ryan had said about work, the project he mentioned, his role in the company. Finally, she was like, Sabrina, I don't know how to tell you this, but Ryan isn't who he says he is at work. Turns out Ryan isn't some hotshot marketing guy about to get promoted. He's an assistant who makes coffee runs and schedules meetings. All those business trips, complete fabrications. The big presentation, he was just doing the slides for the actual team. The fancy title on his LinkedIn, Total Fiction. I felt like such an idiot. For 2 years, this guy had been lying about basically everything and I never questioned it. What else had he been lying about? That night, after Vanessa left, I went into full detective mode. I scrolled back through our text history, our photos, everything. So many inconsistencies I'd missed. Comments about money that didn't add up. Times he had to work late, but his location showed him across town. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment in the restaurant. How small he made me feel, how humiliated I was. At like 3 a.m., I get a text from a number I don't recognize. Hey, it's Cody from Ryan's office. Vanessa gave me your number. There's some stuff you should know. That's when things got really interesting. I stared at the text from Cody for a while, wondering if I should even open it. What could I possibly learn that would make me feel better about what had just happened? But curiosity won out, and I tapped the message open. Hey, it's Cody from Ryan's office. Vanessa gave me your number. There's some stuff you should know. My fingers trembled slightly as I read the words. Cody? Who was he? Why was he contacting me, and what could he possibly know? I decided to reply. I had to know. Me? What do you mean, stuff I should know? He responded almost immediately. Cody, Ryan's not who you think he is. He's been lying about his work for a while. Everyone in the office knows it. The promotion he told you about? It's not happening. He doesn't even have the experience for it. He's been putting on a show, pretending he's someone he's not. He's been using his charm to manipulate you, and probably other people, too. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. My heart was racing as I read each word. Ryan had lied about his job. He'd pretended to be someone he wasn't. I wanted to scream, to call him, but I knew I had to stay calm. Cody's message continued. Cody, look, I don't want to get involved, but you deserve to know the truth. He's been living off your trust, pretending he's this big shot. He's barely a footnote at the office. I think you should find out who he really is, not just what he's been telling you. My fingers hovered over the phone for a moment before I responded. Me? Why are you telling me this? What's in it for you? Cody, I hate seeing people get used. I don't know you, but I saw how he treated you, and it didn't sit right with me. He's using you for status, for clout. Just be careful. I sat back on my couch, staring at the screen. Ryan wasn't some successful, high-powered marketing guy. He wasn't some ambitious corporate shark on the rise. He was a fraud. He had been lying to me, using me, and I had been too blind to see it. My stomach turned as the realization hit me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, every date, every moment I had spent with Ryan. How many times had he talked about his big presentation, his clients, his work trips? Every little detail had been a lie. Every achievement he boasted about had been fabricated. I had been living in a fantasy world that he had created, and I had let myself be a part of it. The next morning, I called Vanessa. I needed to talk to her to get the full story. She had to know something. When she picked up, I didn't waste time. Me, Vanessa? What's going on with Ryan? I just got a message from someone at his office. He's been lying about everything. His job, his career. He's been pretending to be this big shot, and I had no idea. She was silent for a moment. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Vanessa, Sabrina, I didn't want to tell you this, but I had a feeling you might find out. Ryan's always been like this. He lies to everyone, especially about his job. He told me he was doing all this high-level marketing work, but I knew something was off. When I asked him about it, he just got defensive, and I never pushed it further. I didn't know how to tell you. He's good at making people think he's important, but I think deep down he knows he's not. He's been feeding you lies. I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. Ryan had been lying not just to me, but to everyone around him. He'd spent 2 years pretending to be someone he wasn't. How did I miss all of this? How did I let him manipulate me so completely? Me, I feel like an idiot, Vanessa. How did I not see this? Vanessa, it's not your fault. Ryan's really good at pretending. He knows how to make you feel special. But you deserve better than this, Sabrina. You deserve someone who's real with you, not someone who builds their life on lies. The words stung, but they also gave me clarity. I wasn't crazy. Ryan had been manipulating me, lying to me for months, and I had let it happen. But that was going to change. I wasn't going to let him do this anymore. The days after the breakup were a blur. I was drowning in confusion, pain, and a sense of betrayal. I had spent so much time loving and trusting Ryan, thinking he was someone who would be there for me, someone I could build a future with. But everything I had believed in had been a lie. I spent the first few days isolating myself, too hurt to talk to anyone, but Vanessa reached out almost immediately. She had always been there for me, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't just sympathy or "I told you so." She genuinely wanted to help me see the situation clearly. You're not crazy, Sabrina. What happened wasn't your fault, she kept telling me, over and over again. Ryan wasn't the person you thought he was, and that's not something you can control. But what you can control is how you move forward from this. And you're stronger than you think. She was right, of course. As painful as it was, I knew I had to let go. Ryan had done enough damage, and continuing to question everything would only hold me back. I needed to focus on myself, my own healing, and rebuilding my life without him in it. And that wasn't going to be easy. There were moments, though, when the weight of everything hit me. I would be walking through the grocery store, suddenly overwhelmed by the realization that I had invested 2 years of my life into someone who didn't care about me as much as I cared about him. And the worst part? I had let myself be manipulated, letting him take up space in my life and my heart while he lied to me every step of the way. But then there was another moment, a moment where I realized how much stronger I was becoming. I was sitting on my couch with a glass of wine and my favorite movie on when I realized something that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was done with the guilt, the shame, and the self-blame. I wasn't the problem in this relationship. Ryan was. And no matter how much I blamed myself for not seeing the lies sooner, I had done the best I could with the information I had at the time. I had loved with everything I had, and if that wasn't enough for him, then it wasn't my fault. That night, I deleted Ryan's number. I deleted every message, every trace of him from my phone. I couldn't keep holding on to the past. I didn't need to keep reminders of someone who had treated me so poorly. If I wanted to heal and move on, I had to let go completely. The weeks that followed were tough, but they were also incredibly freeing. I started focusing on myself, on the things I loved and had pushed aside while I was with Ryan. I signed up for a yoga class, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the time for. I spent more time with my friends, especially Vanessa, who had been my rock through all of this. I also threw myself into my work. My career had always been something I was proud of, but I realized that I had let it take a back seat while I was in the relationship. I started setting new goals for myself, pushing myself to grow in ways I hadn't before. I started speaking up in meetings, taking on new projects, and pushing my boundaries in ways I hadn't thought possible. And slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not the person Ryan had shaped me to be, but the person I had been before I met him, the person I was before I let someone else define my worth. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I felt like I was still falling apart. But then there were moments of clarity, moments where I realized how far I had come. I had been through something painful, yes, but I had come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and more resilient. One day, a few months after the breakup, I was sitting at a cafe, sipping my coffee, when I saw a familiar face in the distance. Ryan. I froze for a second, my heart skipping a beat. But then, as I watched him walk by, I realized something I hadn't expected to feel: nothing. There was no anger, no heartbreak. There was just indifference. I didn't care anymore. He didn't have any power over me anymore. And that was the moment I knew I had truly moved on. I didn't need Ryan's approval or validation to feel worthy. I didn't need his love to feel complete. I had learned to love myself again, and that was more than enough. A few months after everything had settled down, I decided to take a trip. It wasn't some grand vacation, just a weekend getaway to a quiet cabin by a lake, something simple, just for me. I wanted to reflect on everything that had happened and think about the lessons I had learned. It was there, surrounded by nature and silence, that I realized how much I had grown. I had been in a relationship where I had ignored my own needs, my own boundaries, for too long. And while it had been painful to go through, it was also one of the best things that had ever happened to me. The pain of the breakup had taught me to value myself, to set boundaries, and to never let anyone make me feel less than I was worth. I had been through something difficult, but I had come out on the other side with a deeper understanding of who I was and what I needed from a partner. As I sat on the porch of the cabin, watching the sunset, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to settle for anything less than what I deserved. I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel small, or less than, or unimportant. I was going to find someone who saw me for who I truly was, not who I pretended to be to fit into their idea of what I should be. That night, as I watched the stars twinkle above me, I finally felt at peace. I knew that I was exactly where I needed to be. I was no longer defined by Ryan's lies or his manipulation. I was defined by me. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that I was enough. Sometimes it takes going through the worst experiences to come out on top, to realize your own worth. Ryan had treated me like I was nothing more than a stepping stone for his own ego, but in the end, I was the one who came out stronger. I wasn't defined by his lies, his actions, or his inability to see my worth. We all deserve to be with someone who loves us for who we truly are, someone who lifts us up instead of tearing us down. And if you're ever in a situation where you feel like you're being manipulated or lied to, remember this: you deserve better. You deserve love, respect, and honesty. And if you're in a relationship where you don't get that, it's okay to walk away. You don't need to stay for the sake of it. You are enough. You always were.